Well, hello. This is Claudio Losala here. This is a virtual brown bag. It's that time of the day, that time of the week, and we're about to get started here. As usual, we're going to go over a quick introduction of what the virtual brown bag is. That way we explain it for people who are not familiar with it, and we also give folks some time to join in. So the virtual brown bag, this is a place where every week we share tips and tricks, we share experiences, difficulties, whatever it is that we may be working with, right? Maybe tips and tricks on tools that we are using, shortcuts that we use a lot that save us, time over time, articles, books, blog posts that we've read and we feel like other people could benefit from them. We share experiences, maybe we've learned something the hard way, and we feel like sharing our findings with other people. Sometimes we share frustrations or difficulties. Maybe you're trying to get something done and you cannot figure out what's going on. Well, maybe somebody else has gone through the same pain, so if you bring it up here, somebody else can help you out. Sometimes we don't have the answer right off the bat, but we just do a live troubleshooting session here. Sometimes we, as a group, find out the solution. Sometimes we don't, but at least we try to help you figure a way out, give you general directions and things like that. The idea here is not to be this one-way conversation type of thing that we get at user group conferences and stuff like that. The idea here is to have somebody start talking about a topic or whatever, and we all just chime in and post our comments or just open up our mics and start talking. We do this every Thursday from 12 to 1 Central Time here on Live Meeting. It's free for everybody. Anybody who would like to join in and share or learn or doing both, which is always better. This is a partial list of topics we've covered so far. We've been all over the place, and that's probably what keeps a lot of people coming back, because we never know exactly what we're going to be seeing here. And it works well that way for this format of meetings that we're looking for here. We have an official virtualbrownbag.com website where you can find more information about these meetings. You can find a wiki, you can find recordings. By the way, that reminds me I should have hit record. Oh, I did that already. Okay, good. So we are in the process of trying to find a good solution for automating these videos. We used to have one, but it hasn't been reliable, and I'm actually personally working on trying to find some solutions for that, trying to get that going so that we can reliably always have the recordings available just a couple of hours after we're done with the meeting. So we're working on that. The way these meetings work, somebody like myself or JV or George, whoever is available at the day, would start the meeting like I'm doing right now, explaining the few directions for how we do things here. And then from there on, we just keep taking turns. Whoever would like to talk, just open up your mic and start talking. If you have a specific thing that you would like to share, just let us know, either by opening up your microphone and saying, or by turning your feedback flag on Live Meeting to yellow. That way we know that you would like to share. You just don't want to interrupt whoever's talking at the moment, and we can promote you to present through Live Meeting. If you have questions you would like to ask, you can use the Q&A feature in Live Meeting. Just type out your questions. If you have a microphone, just feel free to use it, right? Just unmute yourself and start talking. You can use the Q&A feature also to send links or comments or whatever it is, ideas that you might have. If you are promoted to a presenter here, you can then start sharing something on your screen, either an entire, either a program, your entire desktop, just a selected area of your desktop. If you've never done it, we can walk you through the process. It's just, you're 2 clicks away from sharing something on your screen. It's relatively easy. So make sure you try it. And if you have any ideas, questions, suggestions, anything that you think we could try out to improve our experience here at these meetings, please let us know, and we get back to you and as soon as we can. And we always try things out as people ask us to do so. All right, I guess as usual, I'll go down a list of things that I've been collecting over the last couple of days. and share those. And again, feel free to ask questions or make comments at any point in time. And if you have anything to share, just let us know. So let's see. First thing I have to share here. As soon as I get my link up. Not sure why it's not loading. Here we go. This is something I've blogged this morning. Not too long ago, I had blogged about what my work environment looks like. So it used to look a little bit like this, where I have my dual monitors connected to one machine and a laptop on the side to just do research and stuff like that. And I would set my iPad like right in the middle of the screens with like websites.
I'm still just seeing the Prezi presentation. Do you switch from that, or?
Yeah, I'm switching in my browser. So you're not seeing my whole browser?
I'm not. What about anyone else?
That's weird.
If it's just me, then...
Yeah, no. Hold on. Let me do this again, because it could be a general problem.
I was seeing it fine.
You were seeing just fine?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let me bring it back up. Thanks. George, maybe you're having a screen refreshing problem?
That's just me then. All right,
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. All right,
It
cool.
was better before.
What was that?
It was better before.
It was better? Oh, yeah. So I know why. Let me do this, because live meeting does not keep the color resolution that we are displaying. So every time I do a share, I have to go back and change that setting. I think it should be back to looking better now. So that's how I had it. I had my iPad in there just for like web pages that I would bring up, or books or blog posts, anything that I was researching at the moment. Now, since I've embraced my Mac as my primary work machine, so a couple of days ago, like 1 or 2 nights ago, actually, I found out about this air display thing, which I had heard about it, but a couple of months ago. But at the time, I've read people's reviews, and they were saying, it's not that great. It's still, the lag between, you throwing something at the iPad and then back, it's kind of laggy. But decided to give it a shot again, because I, again, read the reviews, and people said that it got a lot better. And I've been using it for about 2 days. So now this is how I have it. I have the MacBook Air, which is just a 13-inch screen, so it's relatively small, but it's good for portability when I'm on the road. But I have one of the big monitors hooked up to it, which works great. And now I have the little iPad on the side. So the way I have it is so that on the iPad, I have the terminal window. So that's where I'm like typing out my commands and running my tests, running deployments, and rake tasks and stuff like that, which works pretty well because it's essentially a black screen. There's no videos or anything like that, so it works pretty well because it works over my wireless network, right? So there's a little bit of a lag, so if I type really fast, I may not see things as quickly as on my main monitor, but it's still pretty good. I don't mind, because as I'm typing, I'm not looking at the screen anyways. So it works pretty well. And then on the main screen on the Mac, I just have usually like the website that I'm building, so it's the browser there, so I can see the results. And on the big monitor, I have like my IDE source code, so I can see lots of code in there, stuff like that. And then on the far right monitor, that's the one that's still hooked up to my PC, which I still use for like video rendering and music recording, or when I'm running the virtual brown bag, like right now, I'm using this machine. So it's working pretty well. I like having multiple monitors set up like this, where I'm actually making use of them and not just having them sitting there, not doing anything productive. So that's that. Let's see. A couple of months ago, I believe, we were talking about the RubyCoans, which is like a series of exercises or tests that you can follow to learn Ruby. a couple of weeks ago, I found out about this one on JavaScript, which I kept track of it. I haven't started actually trying it out, but I said, well, let me add to my list of things to check out because it seems like a cool thing. And since I need to brush up my JavaScript skills and start from the start because I'm very rusty with it, I said, well, maybe that's something that might be useful to other people. Has anybody tried that one yet or followed those Koans yet?
JavaScript Koans? No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question going back to the monitors.
Sure.
Do you have 2 video cards in your main machine when the machine that is implementing the 2 monitors?
So yeah, it all depends on how it works. For instance, for my PC, which is a desktop machine, on that one I do have a dual. Well, actually, let me actually look at it. Yeah, actually, my video card on that machine, it already has 2 ports because most of the newer video cards, they already have that. But you can add, I mean, as many as your computer can support. And then the more monitors you have there, when you go into that, what is it, the desktop options or display options, it's going to show you all the monitors that you have, and then you can adjust. If it's a laptop, usually you can hook up 1 extra monitor, right? So you have the main laptop screen plus the extra one. And that's what I have on my Mac as well. There's just 1 video output that I can use, but since I'm using the iPad as a 3rd one, it works well that way. And actually, come to think about it, if you have, oh no, I was gonna say if you had like other machines, like other Mac machines on your network, you could hook those up. But actually, Air Display, I think it only allows you to extend to 1 extra monitor. Even though if you have like an iPhone, it's going to show up, and you can now also use the iPhone as an extra screen, but you cannot use both, like the iPhone and the iPad, which it was a bummer. But just because I wanted to try that out, but that's how it works. So does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, but I'm just wondering the difference, like if you have 2 video cards as opposed to having 1 video card with 2 ports. I mean,
it will not make a difference. I mean, as far as the configuration, when you pop open that, I don't remember on Windows what it's called. Yeah, I think if you just go screen resolution on Windows, yeah, when you go to the display screen resolution, it's going to show as many monitors as it can find. It doesn't matter whether you have like 2 graphic cards or 1 with 2 video outputs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna, I mean, you just, keep hooking up monitors to it, and they're gonna start popping up in that screen, and then you can just use that screen to arrange, okay, I want to have the one on the far left as my main one, and then I want to extend my desktop to the one to the right, and the one to the right of that one, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
I will say I've started changing my mind a little bit about multiple monitors because I've been working the last 6-7 months with just 1 monitor. Granted, it's a large laptop screen, and I think virtual desktops is all you really need. And I mean, I've tried the different things. I had a little extra USB screen that I would carry around and plug in. And now that I'm running Ubuntu for my host machine, which has great virtual desktop support. So I've got 1 virtual desktop that I can just flip over at any time that has all my chat windows, 1 that has all my browsers, 1 that has music, and 1 that has my VM. And I really am not feeling any need for more whatsoever.
I keep going back and forth, and right now, the way I feel, it all depends on what I'm doing at the moment. Because depending on the things that I'm doing, like if I'm doing a lot of, okay, I need to run tests, but I still need to edit some code here and there, I like to be able to, on a separate screen, say, okay, run my tests, and meanwhile, I'll flip to the other screen to keep editing code. but I can always just, gaze at my other monitor to see if the tests are done executing or things like that. So again, depending on the task that I'm doing, I like being able to just, turn my head to the monitor to see what the status is, as opposed to bringing up like a virtual environment. But again, it all depends on what exactly am I doing at the moment.
Right.
But yeah, and I mean, I keep surprising myself. Once in a while, I just I do some pomodoros, and then what I do is I take my MacBook Air and just walk down to the kitchen, for instance, and work standing there at the kitchen's counter for like 1 or 2 pomodoros, just with a small 13-inch monitor, and it works just fine, because depending on what is it that I'm doing, I don't need anything else.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying I don't need anything else, but fast, responsive virtual desktops, and that's very specific, responsive virtual desktops, so that I can, unless, something's going on in my host OS, I can just flip back and forth with no problem.
Right.
It really, really solves the problem quite well.
Cool.
So that's kind of good. Also about the JavaScript, I sent you something in the Q&A, a link to that I found recently.
Let me pull it up.
Yeah, so this is John Rezzig's. Basically, he wrote a little web app that'll teach you JavaScript, and you click through it. He actually sets up tests that you can run and edit, and then see the results from it. And so it's little exercises.
Oh, that's
freaking
cool.
Sweet. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Okay, and it's with stuff out of that book that you recommended a couple of months ago, Secrets of the JavaScript Ninja.
Did I recommend that? I don't know. I haven't read that book. If I recommended it, then I was...
I thought you had I thought at EPS you had requested that book.
Yes, but I didn't read it.
Oh, okay.
but John Rezzig is the man, so pretty much anything he says is way more important than whatever I say, so...
Cool.
His stuff is awesome.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, he's Mr. JavaScript, basically.
Right.
In the same way Yehuda Katz is Mr. Ruby, though Yehuda Katz now says he writes mostly JavaScript. Like all the Ruby guys, that's what happens when you figure out the server side.
Right. Cool. All right, awesome. Cool, let's see. All right, got a couple more stuff that I can go over here. I guess switching over to RSpec. So I've been going back to some tests that I wrote using RSpec a couple of months ago, and then of course getting into Ruby and RSpec. At first I was writing my specs using RSpec, but still following the way I was doing it in .NET, without really leveraging some of the things that RSpec does really well. And now I just started going back and refactoring some of those as I learn better way, or not necessarily better, but different ways of doing it until I settle on something that I feel it works well for me. So I found this one blog post where the guy talks about some of the differences. Like one thing here, you could do this first example. It should be valid. Do user should be valid. That's one way of doing it. But it can also be replaced with that second option. Specify user should be valid. So you don't need to say it should be valid and then run the code, because RSpec looks at that and it builds the descriptive message for you based on, well, the variable name is user, so it knows that if this guy fails, it's going to tell you something like user, and then should, because you're using the should method, and then be valid, because you're using that matcher. So it's a nice way to let RSpec build the error message for you based on what is it that you're specifying. Well, that's pretty cool. When you're describing things, like you can do describe user, it should validate presence of name, or it should have one address, right? So those are all in RSpec, they're called matchers. They match what you're trying to do, and it calls the methods that are gonna evaluate to those criteria. Now that's pretty cool. If you use the subject method, you can say subject user address, which means the thing that you're currently testing or checking is the address. So at that point, you can say it should be valid. Well, what should be valid? Well, the subject, which in this case is the address. So which again, it's all Ruby code, but it reads a lot more fluent. And if the thing fails, RSpec is going to use those hands to build the text for you. So that's pretty cool. They had another example here, like, yeah, this is how I was writing tests until not too long ago, where I would say, like, describe demo man, it should have expected attributes, and then it instantiates this demo man thing, and then it says demo man should respond to name, demo man should respond to gender, everything as one spec, which just like in the .NET space, where if the first assertion fails, the other ones would not run. Well, we can change that around, like the guy shows here, where you can say describe demo man, and then you say before all, you instantiate the class, right? So it's almost like your test setup, and then you specify what's the subject for that test. In this case, it's the demo man property, and then you run different it specs, right? Say it should respond to name, it should respond to, so those are all different assertions, right? But it looks a lot better. They're all gonna run, and if one of them fail or many of them fail, RSpec is gonna build those strings for you. So that's also cool. And then here he just has another example of using describe, before, subject, context, it, and so on and so forth. So little by little, I've been going back to this, and then I go back to my tests, try to clean it up. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I use a mix of subject and it, sometimes I use specify based on what is it that I'm trying to check. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, there's a comment here on the chat window from Scott. There's a free tool. Okay, this is going back to the virtual spaces that we were talking about. So it says there's a free tool called Synergy that allows you to share a single keyboard and mouse between multiple computers, sort of an inverse of a KVM switch. Whichever screen the mouse is pointing to will be the machine that gets the focus on the keyboard and mouse activity. I use it at home and it's really handy. It works on Windows, Apple, and Linux. That is pretty cool. Let me look that up.
Yeah, it can be a hassle to set up. If anyone is like is setting it up some point and has trouble, then pop in. Like I've set it up a bunch. It sounds like he's done it a bunch too. So we can help you out. But yeah, I like having just one screen. And the other thing that's a problem with it, you can't move between, you can't throw stuff over to the other screen, right? Because it's a different operating system. You're just sharing mouse and keyboard. And if you're lucky and it's working properly, you're also sharing the clipboard.
I see. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. Right. Yeah, which is something that, I mean, since I have the two machines set side by side, it's happened to me several times when I'm working on one machine using the mouse and then dragging the pointer over to the other monitor thinking, why the hell is it not going there? Oh, it's a different machine. So this could be useful. Yeah, I'm going to give that a shot. That's interesting. Cool. All right. Thanks for that one, Scott. I'm adding to my list of things to try out. So that's cool. All right. Let's see. Also, actually, since Scott popped up, that's something that he sent me a couple of weeks ago, which is this Vim add-on for RubyMine. And I've been trying this, and I think I actually mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. So I've been trying that like for at least 30 minutes to an hour a day until I freak out when I'm editing code. So it's essentially just adding Vim commands to RubyMine. For some things, I'm still a lot faster just using the RubyMine stuff because, just some legacy or some knowledge and shortcuts that I've ported over from ReSharper, and I'm used to those, so I'm faster that way. But at the same time, just for regular navigation within a source code file, as I learn the Vim shortcuts, well, those are a lot faster, that's for sure, but since I'm still learning, so I keep going back from, enable this Vim plugin, do some work, and then when I get terribly stuck, I disable it and just go, old school on it. So that was pretty cool as well. Started using that. Let's see how things are going here. All right, got a couple more things I can share, and then I see Mark has stuff to share. So Mark, get ready. A couple of minutes, I should be able to turn it over to you. Let's see. Ruby hashes. So several months ago, we shared the inject method or function in, or actually inject method on arrays in Ruby. Yesterday, I wanted to do something that I didn't know how to do it. I thought inject would be something that could help me, but I was not exactly sure how. And then I checked with our friend Ben Sherman, and he pointed me out to the right direction. And then I also found this blog post that talks a little bit more about it, and I was like, man, this is cool. I like it. So like what I wanted to do was to do what this guy's doing on this blog post, where I had an array. It was really a hash, but let's just work with an array here, where I had a bunch of things in there, and the things were not unique. And what I wanted to create was a hash out of it, where it would count the number of things I had there as per like categories, almost like a group by, right? So like in this hash, the guy has here, he has apple, banana, apple. So he has 2 apples, 1 banana. So the way you can do that count in Ruby here, you get your array, and then you do inject, and then you inject a hash into it. And that was the part I was missing before from this inject, because I knew, well, I can inject integers in there to use as my aggregate, right? The thing that I'm summing up in there. Well, you can inject whatever the heck you want in there, and that's the part I was missing. So if you inject a hash, you can just keep adding stuff to the hash, right? So here, like on line 3 there, what he does is he gets the age, which is the hash being injected, and then fruit is the item, the current item that we're iterating over, right? And then he just goes from there. Now the first example there, he's like memoizing in case there's no fruits in there. But on the second case, which I like it better, instead of just injecting an empty hash like that, not only he injects an empty hash, but he also initializes the items to 0, right? So he does hash.new 0, right? And then that way all he needs to do is to say age and then fruit, which is the element, and just, increment that in there, and he gets the result out of it. So that I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Very simple, very clean, and I like that. So that's cool. And then finally, last on my list here, I started doing some work with MarkDown. And MarkDown is just a simplified way to do markup, essentially, that pretty much most good gems on GitHub or projects on GitHub, that's what they use for their readme file, right? So they're all like readme.markdown, and you see this, nicely formatted documentation in there, right? And that's created using Markdown. And since I started writing stuff for the Ruby source blog site, they also asked, if writers could use Markdown. I said, well, I better learn how to use it. So there is this site where there's like a, getting started on MarkDown. So he explains how you can use it, right? So something like this, you write stuff this way, and it produces HTML like this, right? So I went through this basics to learn, well, the basics. And then it's cool because the guy has a like live thing where you can try things out. Right here, you could type your markdown, like for instance, my blog post. And let's say that I want to make that an H1. You just put, the equal signs in there like that. And then everything you need to know about whatever. And then say here, I want it to be not as strong, so I do it like this. And then, hey Mark, can you go on mute for a little bit, man? We're getting a lot of feedback from you there. Thank you. And then, let's see, you can just start typing stuff like this, post is, and then awesome, let's say that awesome, I want to make it bold. You can just put a star in there. If I want to put a link, like you should visit the VBB, right? And this, I want to make it a link. You do the square brackets, and in parentheses, what is the link? Like that. So brownbag.com, like that. If you have a list, you can do just something like this. It's cool, it's useful, whatever, right? So that's all markdown, and then you can click convert here, and then it's going to create the HTML for you, so you can copy it from here and paste it on WordPress or like GitHub or however it is, or whatever it is that you're using it, and you can also preview what it's going to look like, right? So that's what I've been doing. Just come in here, drop whatever it is that I want, do the markdown thing. It has like a reference on the side, right? Cheat sheet kind of thing, pretty cool, right? And then you steal the HTML right there, and you can also preview it this way. So that's pretty cool. Started using that quite a bit now. And there is a, I believe JB shared a couple of meetings ago. If you're doing Rails or even just Ruby, there is this RedCarpet gem, right? That essentially you can, add markdown stuff to your site. And it's if you use this gem, it's going to produce the HTML out of it. So I'm thinking of using this, like on the site that I'm building. We're going to be like publishing news entries to the site. So I want to have my client be able to just go there, add their own news, and type something, that's going to be relatively well formatted. Like something like this, but the guy doesn't need to know a lot of HTML or anything, right? He can use something simple like this to publish his news and stuff like that. So I'm thinking of using that in the site like that. So that is that. Any questions, comments about all that stuff that I've been blabbing about here? And if not, I'll turn it over to Mark.
I will say, just I've also kind of just on the .NET side been looking at a lot of documentation generation lately.
Oh.
So I've been looking at natural docs, which is great and will generate good professional-looking documentation for like almost any language, except it doesn't handle XML comments in .NET, which is really frustrating, though they make a very good argument for it, for why they don't, like that it's just like just lazy and stupid that that Visual Studio does XML comments, which, you think about it, you kind of agree, that's not a well-formed XML document. Why the hell are we using XML there instead of something more compact? But so for the C# stuff, I've been playing around with Daku, which is James Gregory's thing, and oh my god, like that's about 1 billion times better than Sandcastle. Like, because I got Sandcastle set up after like 2 hours of struggling with it.
Right.
And Daku is a small DLL exe that you can check into your source control, add it to your build process, and really generates. I mean, it's got almost no options, but it's also what do you need? It just generates HTML. You don't even need a server to see its output.
Right. How is it spelled, Daku?
DOCU, I believe, or DOKU. It's James Gregory's thing. So
there you go. Oh, okay, Daku. Okay, DOCU. Got it.
Now, the example of the example output that he has on there is in RDoc style, and that is actually no longer the default set of templates.
Okay.
So the default set of templates is a little closer to MSDN. It's still a little friendlier. It's still friendlier than MSDN in my opinion, but.
Okay.
But I'm guessing there are RDoc style templates in there somewhere too.
Okay.
But I mean, the templates themselves are pretty simple. They're just Spark template engine.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking at his site. It's funny. Sandcastle examples don't even work. There's the shit. I see. Cool. Awesome. All right. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. I think Mark, are you all set, man?
Yeah, I don't know if do you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Really just had a couple of questions. Maybe you or JB or anyone can help. I'm going through this Rails tutorial book, and unfortunately, everything he does in the book is from a Mac, so whenever there's something you need to do, he points you in a direction of how to possibly do it in Windows, but a lot of times I can't get it working. So one of the things that's annoying is when I want to run, like, these tests right here. This is an example of just some tests in RSpec. I have to do this bundle exec RSpec spec, and it takes a good couple of minutes to do it. And he recommends, other people recommend using auto test. I never got that to work, and I'm not really sure why. If you go over, I guess I'll just share this. If you go, let me go to my gem file, and I'm doing this gem auto test. It's installed, but it doesn't do anything. I mean, the examples they say is just do auto test.
Right.
And I'll show you what it does. I mean, what is that? I don't even know what that means. That's the result you get.
Well, auto test, if I remember correctly, the idea is it keeps running there, and then as you make changes to files, it will just automatically run the tests for you. So you don't have like to flip back to to the command line and say, okay, I want to run these tests. It will just run it for you.
Okay.
I think that's what it does. I have not been using it. I believe JB also is not using it. I think Ben. Hey JB, you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here. I was using it previously, but then I stopped using it. And there's even people on Lone Star Ruby Conference talking about how everyone's kind of gone away from using it.
Right.
So it's more the point, because the reason why is because I think there's even, someone has a blog post like why I stopped using auto test. There's about Spork. I think they're talking about Spork.
Spork, yeah.
So I think the general idea is like if your tests are taking a long time, it's trying to figure out what's taking a long time. But looking at yours, I'm trying to figure out what's taking so long. Is it just that booting up into RSpec just takes a long time?
Yeah. I mean, if I can run that bundle, it just takes a while. And he said in the book it's going to do that unless you set up auto test and Spork and you install Growl, and then Growl will send out notifications. I think I tried everything that I looked at online. I can run Growl and nothing happens.
Growl, I don't know if it works on Windows. It's a Mac thing.
Yeah, there is Growl for Windows, and that's what I installed.
Okay.
If I'm not going to use auto test or Spork or anything, I mean, I guess point me in the direction of what I need to do or how I need to do it to run RSpec tests.
So now, when you just ran the thing right now, it didn't look like it took too long, though.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. He explains that every time you do that, it has to load the Rails environment or the Rails, and that's, if you have a lot of tests, I imagine it's going to take longer. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not a big deal. I'm just used to graphical, verification of test passing, and it seemed to me like if you have something like Growl or anything, it'll pop up and show you that certain tests passed, certain tests didn't. I'm just wondering if there's anything in Windows that's similar to that, to where I don't have to rely on running this. Even if there's a failure, it's very confusing what's failing in this console. I'm running this Git console because for some reason right now in Aptana it's not loading. Usually I run it in here and it runs fine, but I did something to the pass and it can't find Git. I like this Aptana Studio because you don't have to run a separate. I was using Komodo Edit, but I found this Aptana Studio. It's free, so I'm using it now. So it doesn't really matter. But for right now, to make this work, I'm running this Git console. But like if I can change the spec and make it fail. I don't know. Maybe I just need to get used to like using this, but
Yeah. So let me tell you,
it's like going from ReSharper unit tests and what that tells you, and going to this a command line. I don't know why that passed. It shouldn't have passed, but oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying because I was also, coming from the same perspective, even though, like, even in Visual Studio using test-driven.net, I would just still look at the console output there instead of seeing, like, a graphical thing, see my error messages and stuff, but it was, like, more, I don't know, smaller or whatever. And then when I started, like, running RSpec and things like that, I felt like you were saying, like, man, this is confusing. What the heck am I looking at here? But what happens is, in the flow, at least the flow that I got now, I run like the test for the thing that I'm working on, right? I don't get like lots of failures or whatever because I'm just working with a single test or a single couple of specs. So if things fail, I don't know, I got used to like what you have on the screen here, just, look through it and like JB mentioned when I was starting, you just get used to it. You start like learning where to draw your attention to when a message like this pops up, right? And but also there are ways for you to format the output of RSpec, and I cannot remember exactly, how those are, but if you look for RSpec cheat sheets, I think that's where I normally go to see, and you essentially change the way that RSpec is going to produce the output that you're seeing. So maybe you want to experiment with that to see what works best for you. Because like I know that on RubyMine, I can also run it from within the IDE and see the graphical stuff, and I tried it. But funny thing is, I got used to the way I see it on the command line, and I just keep going back to it. As far as running it on Windows, yes, I remember following the same book that I also had to do bundle exec. But one thing that I think I've shared a couple of weeks ago, it's amazing how much slower RSpec is on my Windows box compared to my Mac. I mean, I was blown away when I saw the difference. I don't know why it is, because like my Mac only has 4 gigs of RAM, right? It's a small MacBook Air. My PC has like 12 gigs of RAM. It's a quad core. It's a blazing fast machine for everything else. But running my tests, it's a difference like, I don't know, to run 100 specs on my Mac, it takes, I don't know, like 5 seconds or something like that. And on the PC, the same tests take, I don't know, like 2 minutes. And I have no idea why. It's a huge difference, and I do not understand why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm resigned to the fact that I'll be on a PC until I get a Mac or something. But I was just curious. Like, I've wasted a lot of time trying to get auto tests and all that stuff to work. But it works if I run this bundle exec. It's just I literally do it and then sit there, and then I realize if I'm gonna have a ton of tests, it's probably gonna take longer. It's just annoying, I guess.
You know, and I don't think it's the number of tests though. I don't think that's what matters. I think the whole, having to run the environment is what, because I think once the environment is loaded for that series of tests, I don't know how it works, but it's, it doesn't matter if you have one test or 100 tests, is what I'm saying.
So is there no graphical unit test runner for Ruby on Rails? You have to run it through console like Git or Bash or whatever?
Well, it depends. If you are using an IDE, like I said, in RubyMine, they do have a graphical runner for both RSpec and Cucumber. Right? Like I said, I tried using those, and, okay, I can see some, green and red lights flashing, but other than that, it didn't appeal to me. And again, I also do come from Visual Studio having all that integrated. But once I got into this flow of, okay, I have my test running on my command line, and I have my IDE freed up so I can just navigate through code and stuff, and, I keep an eye on, okay, now my tests are running, and they've passed or they failed. If they failed, it tells me, okay, which test failed, which line. I can quickly jump to that using the IDE. So, I don't know. It's a matter of practice. It's just get out of your comfort zone. That's what I tried to keep in mind when I got into this, which was like, oh yeah, I have all these tools in Visual Studio, ReSharper, all the test runners and everything, and that's what I'm used to. And I made a point to myself to say, okay, let me use something that is completely different. Let me feel very uncomfortable, and let's see what exactly do I miss from my previous environment. But first, let me try the different way and see if I like. And, after doing that for a couple of weeks, I'm like, okay, it's just different. Get used to it and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, give it a go, man. Don't give up. I think that's the point.
Okay.
Yeah, and it does take a little bit. There's a little lag. But I guess I don't really feel that pain point because that's sort of how I do my test-driven development. That as I write, so I'm writing my tests and I'm running them, but as my tests are running, I'm writing the code because I know it's going to fail, and so I'm writing the code to make it pass. And so I don't feel like I have a lot of downtime between the two. And the setting up of auto tests, I've done it before with the project, and I think I did it again, but I've faced the same thing. It was the amount of effort needed to set it up. I don't think the benefits outweigh the costs. Like, because Ben was trying to do it the other day, a couple months ago, and I told him the same thing. Because he had all these problems, and I was like, that's why I don't do it. It's because, you know what, I'll take just waiting and running command line and not have to battle all this configuration stuff. Because that's my big weakness as a developer. I'll put out there that I'm not a configuration build guy. And so anytime it's like you got to configure this or start installing all these other things, I get very frustrated very fast. And so I'm like, if I have a very happy route, then it might be a little bit slow, but I don't have to go battle and debug things for a day or two, I'm cool with it.
Right. Oh, and also, Mark Scott saying on live meeting, he said, Mark, if you don't want to get a Mac, you might try doing Ruby Dev in a Linux virtual machine. It's supposed to be faster on Linux, Mac than Windows. No one seems to know why. And yeah, I started building an Ubuntu machine several months ago, but because I didn't know much Bash, I got stuck real quick and I gave up. But I'm planning on setting that up again on my Windows box, so I have also the Linux-based machine. And I think it, as we talk about, it may have to do with those like C native extensions that work well on Linux-based systems, but not on the Windows. But I may be talking out of my butt here because that's what I heard people say, and I'm just repeating, but I don't know enough to know if that has something to do with it.
Okay. Yeah, that's about it. Other than I just wanted to wonder if anyone had any comments about this Aptana Studio. The only thing I thought I liked, one of the only things I can say that I liked about it was when you're learning Ruby, if you're not learning Rails and you're just learning Ruby, you have to run that Ruby console. I didn't really like it a lot. I know a lot of people are real familiar with it, but I decided to open this. So I did some like learning Ruby stuff in this, and I kind of like it that it's more IDE-ish. So if you write whatever Ruby you want to write, and you just run it, it runs it below in the console for you. So you can kind of edit the files and switch back the files. I don't know. I kind of like that.
Cool.
So you don't. I mean, I kind of wanted to just do Ruby first. Now Rails is just, it's like a totally different animal. I mean, it is learning Ruby and Rails at the same time is important, but for a while it's like, I just want to do some Ruby language stuff and not use that Ruby console. Maybe I'm weird and not wanting to use it, but I kind of like that this Aptana Studio had it in this format where you can create the files and then run them below with, Control F11, and you see the results in the console down here.
Right.
So I like that. I mean, there's a lot of things you can, there's all kinds of things you can do with it. I haven't even begun to mess around with this stuff, but I'm sure eventually I'll go to something like RubyMine. I'm just not ready to put down $60 on something that I don't know I'm going to be that interested in the future. But
Right.
It's based on Eclipse, this Aptana Studio, so if you're familiar with Eclipse, I think it's pretty similar. But I like it. I mean, it lets you switch back and forth between, there's an App Explorer and a Project Explorer. Even in here, it lets you switch branches pretty easily.
Cool.
Even though I still do it in Git, so that's how I learned it. But there's a lot of things you can do. So that's it.
Cool. Well, awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. Let's see. Let me flip it back to my browser here. There's something that popped up from Justine. Let's see. Here's something really cool I discovered this week. For all of you who are doing Silverlight programming and async programming, this site will give you some great examples with the ability to run each example. Here's the link. Let me pull it up. And actually, yeah, I'm doing a small Silverlight thing that's part of the site that I'm building. So this might come in handy. Cool. Oh, I see. It's one of those 101 samples that that Microsoft puts out. And this is cool. Yes, I see. Oh, look at that. Run sample. That is pretty cool. I like it. Yeah, so you get the samples, you see the code, and then you run the sample, you see the output down here. That's pretty cool. Thanks for that, Justine. I like it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, once in a while, whoever comes up with these samples, they do a pretty good job. And it's like, I'd rather have this than all the MSDN stuff that they put out that's, to me, has always been useless. I never find anything that I'm actually interested in there.
I've had a problem with MSDN lately because they don't take off anything that's been deprecated. And so when you're going to find information about something that's valid for the last release, you end up getting or sifting through so many different documents that it's just a waste of time. Exactly.
Yeah, to me it's funny. I mean, when I'm doing like lots of .NET stuff and I do like search for whatever, and it's funny how my mind already like rejects anything that comes up from MSDN. I'm like, okay, this is a list of stuff that Google is showing me. MSDN. I'm like, skip. Okay, whatever comes after that, that's the one that I pick. because I mean I've been so much burned out with the MSDN stuff where I click on a link and it's like you know, you're looking for what does the toString method does, and it says, well, converts the object to string. Like well, that I could have guessed, but tell me like scenarios that I would like to use this when it makes sense, and you know, best practices on using it, and I couldn't find that kind of stuff on the MSDN.
I find more information on Twitter than I do on MSDN.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, that's good. All right. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Got 4 minutes left. I may have something else on my list here. Let's see. Just go dig on my Evernote. Here.
I'll get share something real quick. So working for Koans stuff this morning, getting talks to have a cleaner SEO-friendly link. So you know what this idea is create a permalink, and there's a gem out there called Has Permalink, and I brought that in, but it's only for active record. But I'm still using it for just to show like the workflow of Ruby. Wow, it's really awesome. So I'm like, okay, I need to make this link, clean link, and I started doing it myself, and I'm like, this is silly. Why am I doing this stuff? This is a problem that someone, 10 million people have had, and they've had a solution. So I started looking online. I found Has Permalink, but I'm like, oh crud, Has Permalink only has stuff for active record, and I'm using Mongoid. And I'm like, you know what though? I bet somewhere inside of there's a function that they're calling that's cleaning up the string that I can just call myself. So then I just do gem open up Has Permalink, and I see that there's a module called friendly URL, and it has a function called normalize. And so then I had a problem where I was like, okay, how do I call? I don't want to add this module to my class, but I want to have this method. So method is a class method. So you need to include the module that you want to call that. But there's a way, I don't have the link, but basically what you can do is you can modify the module to make that method like a static, basically a method off that module, and then you can call it directly. So I use that instead. So it's kind of a weird workaround, but I'm able to use Has Permalink's normalize method to create URLs, clean URLs for my talk methods. And I have the code on the Mac, but I don't have anything set up for the PC. But I'll share that one at a time. Of that, I also signed up. I do have a GoToMeeting webinar stuff now. So what I'll probably do sometime in the next week is I'll tweet out, and I guess Claudio will retweet, and we'll do a practice second brown bag, if you will, with it, so that you can easily share Mac stuff as well. And so with the idea being that we would still have Thursday's live meeting, but maybe have another day they would do the GoToMeeting webinar so that we can easily share Mac and show iOS stuff and Ruby stuff.
Right. Sweet. That's cool. All right. This stuff that I'm bringing up here is just links that Rick has sent regarding the MSDN stuff, where you can filter based on the topic. You can check out the pages for the different versions supported by the thing. So that may be useful as well. And actually, just quickly going back to JD, you mentioned MongoDB. Do you know if what is that gem? Will paginate works with Mongo?
Yeah, it does.
Excellent. Okay. Because yeah, I'm not using that just yet, and I remember I've run across something that mentioned that it may not work, and I was like, ah, shit, man. Okay, cool.
No, it works.
Yeah.
Let me see if I had to do, if there's like, you had to include that in another gem.
Okay.
I'm flipping through right now. I think it will paginate by itself. It's fine.
Okay. No biggie. Just wanted to know if it's like, no, it doesn't work at all, we have to look at something else.
I'm using it, will paginate, and I'm using version 3.
Okay. Sounds cool. All right, I think that's it, guys. It's 1 o'clock. Time to wrap up. So thanks a lot for everybody who shared, everybody who stuck around, and I hope to see you guys all again next week. Bye, everybody. Have a nice weekend.